Hi, grade 9. So before we start our lesson, let us discuss or let us answer this question. Why cellular respiration matters? So there is a statement here. It says that we can survive for weeks without eating and days without drinking. But you can only live for a minute without breathing. Why? Because every cell in your body relies on the energy created by using oxygen to break down glucose during the process of cellular respiration. So meaning all living things, including human, including you as a student, you obtain energy by breaking down organic molecules during the cellular respiration. So next question, how breathing is related to cellular respiration? So as you can see in this image, so we have oxygen gas and carbon dioxide here. So when you inhale or when we inhale, we breathe in oxygen gas, right? The oxygen gas is delivered to your cells. So on the red line, so this is the oxygen gas delivered on the part of our bodies, especially in lungs, where it is used in cellular respiration. While the carbon dioxide, the color blue line here that moves out to our body, the CO2, is a waste product of cellular respiration that diffuses from your cell to your bloodstream and travel to your lungs where it is exhaled or on the process of exhalation. Now, take a look on this example. So we have monarch butterflies. So the monarch butterflies here constantly must feed on the nectar from flowers to provide energy to sustain themselves during the winter migration. So similar in as humans or similar you as a student, we need food sources for the survival or for the energy for us to grow and to survive in our daily living. So we rely on food sources for us to have energy, and that is the main function of cellular respiration. So the function of cellular respiration is to harvest electrons from carbon compounds such as glucose. So this is a glucose. This is the chemical formula for the glucose, and to use this energy to make ATP. So we will use the glucose to make ATP. And that's the main function of the cellular respiration. But before that, what is ATP all about? So what is ATP? Actually, ATP is the unit of cellular energy. It is a currency of the cellular respiration, because we all know that energy exists in many forms, including light energy, mechanical energy, electrical energy. But this unit of cellular respiration, the ATP, it is a chemical energy that is stored in chemical molecules that is converted to form an energy when needed. Meaning to say, ATP is the most important biological molecules that provide chemical energy in our cell or in our body. ATP is known as adenosine triphosphate. So from the word itself, triphosphate, so we have three phosphate groups. So as you can see on the ATP structure, so we have adenine, ribose, and triphosphate group. So if we combine those group of adenine, ribose sugar, and triphosphate group, we have ATP or the adenosine triphosphate. So if we have two phosphate attached on ribose sugar, we call it as adenosine diphosphate or ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So if we have one phosphate attached on ribose sugar, you call it as adenosine monophosphate. So this is the structure of adenosine triphosphate. So again, adenosine triphosphate is the most important biological molecule for us to provide chemical energy. So now let us continue. What is cellular respiration? Actually, cellular respiration occurs in all living things. Okay, it takes place in cells for both autotrophs and heterotrophs. So when you say autotrophs, okay, this is autotrophs. Autotrophs is also called producers. So they produce food not only from themselves, but for all other living organisms. So they can produce their own food. While heterotrophs, those are the living things or living organisms that cannot make their own food. So let's have some example here. So this is a koala eating leaves. Okay. And the producer here is the photosynthetic plant here, color green. While the consumer here is what? The koala. Okay, you are correct. So cellular respiration occurs to all living things. Okay? So again, the main function of cellular respiration is to make ATP for our cell. So here is the equation or the overall chemical equation for cellular respiration. So you can see we have 6 atoms of carbon, 12 atoms of hydrogen, and 6 atoms of oxygen. This is glucose. This is the chemical formula for the glucose. Okay? Then adding 6 mole of molecular oxygen. Okay? Or the oxygen gas. And this part is the reactant. So it produces 6 mole of carbon dioxide plus 6 mole of water or H2O plus energy. Or some textbook, the energy written here is ATP. Okay, energy and ATP, they are almost the same. So this is the overall chemical formula for cellular respiration. So the product will be the carbon dioxide. The product will be the carbon dioxide and water plus energy, and the reactant will be the glucose and oxygen gas. So the cellular respiration occurs in two main parts. Remember that. First main part is anaerobic process. So what is anaerobic process? This is a process wherein it do not require oxygen. So in this process, we do not require oxygen. On the first part of cellular respiration, known as glycolysis, it is classified as an aerobic process because during the glycolysis process, it did not require any oxygen. Okay, is that clear? So for aerobic respiration, okay, it is a metabolic process. Of course, it requires oxygen. From the word itself, aerobic, okay, so it requires oxygen. So the remaining two processes of cellular respiration, such as Krebs cycle and electron transport chain, they are classified as aerobic respiration. Okay, is that clear? So this is the overall view of cellular respiration. So as you can see, this is an animal cell. So we use the mitochondria. So after this discussion, we will discuss furtherly what is mitochondria all about. So cellular respiration occurs on the mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So the reaction of cellular respiration can be grouped into three. So first is the glycolysis. Second is the Krebs cycle, or also known as citric acid cycle. And the last part is the electron transport chain. So we will discuss those three parts of or three stages of the cellular respiration. So let us discuss what's the meaning of glycolysis. Glycolysis is broken down of glucose. On some textbook, they define it as splitting of sugar. But what is the origin of this word? Glycolysis comes from the Greek words glykis and lysis. Again, it came from the Greek words glykis and lysis. When you say glykis, meaning sweet, and lysis, meaning to rupture or to break. If you combine those definition or meaning, glycolysis is broken down of sugar or broken down of glucose in the cytoplasm. Okay, always remember glycolysis found in the cytoplasm. So the product of glycolysis is 2 net ATP and 2 molecules of NADH. Okay, so let's look on this image. So this is the glucose. We have 6 carbon chain. Okay, that splits into 2 carbon molecule. Actually, this stage is known as investment stage because we need to invest ATP here on both sides. Okay, for us to activate the glucose. So we need 2 ATP. Okay, to activate this glucose. And after that, it's split into half. Okay, So on the next stage of glycolysis, we have payoff stage. On the payoff stage, as you can see, we have 2 ATP here on the other side. On the right side, we also have 2 ATP. So on the payoff stage, it generates 4 ATP or 4 molecules of ATP, as well as 1 NADH for each side for a total of 2 NADH. So from NAD, okay, NAD is also a coenzyme. So the coenzyme NAD plus picks up electron and hydrogen atoms. So it becomes NADH. So the end product of the glycolysis will be the what we call pyruvic acid. So this 3 carbon, okay, 1 2 3, and the other side is 3 carbon is the pyruvic acid or pyruvate. So the product of this glycolysis, it yield 2 net ATP, okay, not 4 but only 2 net ATP produced during the glycolysis. So we have already 2 net ATP on the first stage of cellular respiration. Now let's move on the second stage of the cellular respiration, known as the citric acid cycle, or known as the Krebs cycle. But before that, let us have a short history about the discovery of the little Krebs cycle. So Hans Krebs discovered the Krebs cycle in 1937. Of course, he named after him the Krebs cycle. So Hans Krebs received a Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 1953 for his discovery. So as you can see, this is the picture of the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle. It looks complicated on our eyes, but allow me to discuss it on a simple way. So first step, let's move on the first step. This is pyruvate or the pyruvic acid from the first step or from the first stage, which is known as the glycolysis, right? So this is the continuation of the first process. So each pyruvic acid or the pyruvate releases or loses 1 carbon as carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide become the first waste product that we have seen so far from the 2 steps or from the 2 stages, the glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So of course, on the other side, we have NAD plus, the reduction of NAD plus. Actually, reduction is a process of gaining electron and hydrogen. So it becomes NAD plus to NADH. Okay, that's clear. Now we have 2 carbons left. These 2 carbons left here is known as the acetic acid. Okay, so each acetic acid is attached to a molecule called coenzyme A or CoA. So when the CoA attached to acetic acids, it form acetyl-CoA. So this is the acetyl-CoA. Okay, so the CoA escorts the acetic acid into the first reaction of the citric acid cycle. So on the first step, the acetic acid, the 2 carbon here, joins a 4 carbon acceptor on your left side. On the left side here, this is the 4 carbon compound known as the oxaloacetate. Okay, so it becomes 6 carbon product called citric acid. The acetic acid has a series of steps. First, it releases 2 molecules of carbon dioxide or 2 CO2, as you can see in this picture. From citric acid composed of 6 carbon compound becomes 5 carbon compounds once it releases 1 molecule of carbon dioxide and another 1 carbon dioxide. So from 5 carbon compound becomes 4 carbon compound because it releases 2 carbon molecule. So it also generates 1 ATP. From ADP becomes ATP. So it also generates 3 NADH from NAD plus to 3 NADH. So 1, 2, and 3. And last, it also generates 1 FADH2 from FAD on this part to FADH2. So finally, the acetyl-CoA and the citric acid generated, the cycle continues. So always remember, we have 2 molecules of pyruvic acid here during the glycolysis. So it results in 2 turns. So it will turn twice on the Krebs cycle for each glucose of molecule. So the net yield from the Krebs cycle has 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 2 ATP and 8 NADH and 2 FADH2. So times 2 because it has 2 turns. So this NADH and FADH2 moves on the next stage because they play a significant role on aerobic respiration known as the electron transport chain. Now, this is the last stage of the cellular respiration known as the electron transport chain. Electron transport is the final step in breaking down the glucose. So it also the point to which the most of ATP is produced. Actually, it has 34 ATP. So the high energy electrons and hydrogen ions from NADH and FADH2 from the Krebs cycle are used to convert ADP to ATP. So that is the main goal of the electron transport chain. Now, as you can see, this is the whole picture of oxidative phosphorylation. So where is the electron transport chain? Here. So this part from 1, as you can see this number, this is complex 1, 2, 3, and 4. Up to this part is a part of electron transport chain. Now the other part is what we call the chemiosmosis. So together with electron transport chain and chemiosmosis is what we call the oxidative phosphorylation process. Starting on the left side of the electron transport chain, the arrows trace the transfer of electron from the molecule of NADH and FADH2. So through the electron transport chain to oxygen. As you can see, this is the oxygen. So the oxygen is the final electron acceptor. So the oxygen accepts 2 electrons and pick up 2 hydrogen ions, forming water or H2O as a final product here. Now let's talk about on this side. We have NADH and FADH2. So these 2 energy carriers are converted to NAD+. So as you can see in this picture, on this arrow. And the FADH2 converted into FAD. So the hydrogen ions are released into the mitochondrial matrix, as you can see on this arrow upward. So the hydrogen ions are pumped into the mitochondrial matrix across the inner mitochondrial membrane. So this is the part of hydrogen ions, a bulk of hydrogen ions. So the hydrogen ions cannot diffuse back through this membrane. So the hydrogen ions here, they will flow through the ATP synthase. So ATP synthase, as you can see on this picture, acts somewhat like a rushing stream that turns a water wheel. So it looks like a water wheel. Okay, so on this ATP synthase, the hydrogen ions allows to move inside of this ATP synthase. Okay, so you can see on this picture. So the chemiosmosis, it allows the protons to pass through the membrane and uses the free energy difference. So from ADP, the adenosine diphosphate here, plus 1 phosphate, it produces ATP on this last part, the chemiosmosis. So for the total number of net ATP in this last stage, known as the electron transport chain or the oxidative phosphorylation, is total of 34 net ATP produced. So overall, in glycolysis, we have 2 net ATP. Second stage is the Krebs cycle produces 2 ATP, and for the last stage, we have the electron transport chain produces 34 ATPs for a total of 38 ATPs in one glucose. Now let's talk about the difference between photosynthesis and cellular respiration. First, in photosynthesis, it takes place in the chloroplast, while the cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondrion. Next, photosynthesis in terms of product and reaction. Carbon dioxide and water react using light energy to produce glucose and oxygen for photosynthesis. And for cellular respiration, glucose and oxygen react to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy, or the ATP, or the adenosine triphosphate. So in terms of energy, light energy from the sun changes to chemical energy in glucose for photosynthesis, while in cellular respiration, chemical energy in glucose changes to chemical energy in ATP. So that is the difference between the photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So in all three stages of aerobic respiration, we could gain 38 molecules of ATP produced in a single molecule of glucose. So that is our topic for this day. And once again, this is Sir Del, and I am signing out. Thank you, and bye-bye.